One of the things they talk about in brain injury support is coming to terms with yourself. You have to grieve. You have to grieve who you were because you're not that person anymore. And you have to find the time and the courage and the patience to figure out who you are now and enjoy that. Just because you can't have the life you had doesn't mean you can't have a life. So in February 2013, I sustained my first concussion. I slipped on the ice, hit my head on a curling rock. And had I known that hitting your head is something pretty serious, I took it easy and took care of myself, I probably would have been fine. But I ignored it. It was one of those things, yeah, you hit yourself, it's gonna hurt, suck it up kind of thing. So then I was playing competitive volleyball the following week and I got smoked in the head, which knocked me out right before I hit my head on the concrete floor. And then the following week, just diving around on the court, I ended up essentially having another injury, and not with any physical impact. It was just the brain at this point isn't really attached with the spinal fluid, so it was just floating around in the skull and gave itself a concussion, really. And that's the one that really did me in. Ended up in the ER the following day, and it was just a complete mess. And it's been 5 years. I'm still off work, still on disability, and still having symptoms, some days worse than others, and yeah. So before my injury, I used to run a face and body painting business. Used to do birthday parties, you know, hockey games, corporate events, you name it. And then after the injury, I actually ended up running my business into the ground. I couldn't handle even an hour at a party with kids. Would not show up to the right events, just in general could not keep up with the business. And I was working on an art challenge where, you know, somebody would tell me what to draw every single day, just random things on Facebook, from hippos dancing to monkeys eating nachos, just random challenges. And one day somebody asked me to draw what it feels like to have a brain injury. And I drew myself behind bars, you know, with a bandage on my forehead. I got a pretty good response to that picture, and so I thought it would be interesting to illustrate, and it made more sense to illustrate what a brain injury was. Because the more you try to talk about it and explain it, it didn't really make sense. So illustrating and making it more visual has more of an impact and resonates more with people. Originally I was going to do models and kind of paint my story, and then I realized it'll be more impactful and more interesting to do a general idea of what a brain injury is by painting people who have brain injuries themselves and paint their story. So I had a few people reach out to me, say they had a brain injury and they loved the idea and they would love to give it a try, and I would ask them how their injury impacted them most, and so each person would focus on a different symptom, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional. And then we would discuss it, and the more they tell me about their story, I would pick up various details, whether it's an adjective they used in their story, and that way I would be able to figure out specifically what pattern, what image they would represent. So between the story, the design, and the photographer, we were able to come up with a picture to capture their story.